Okay. Greetings, everyone. It is me, your host today. My name is Asia Davis, aka Miss Asia Educates. And I don't know if you can see it up here, but today we're going to be talking about homeschool versus public school and who is better prepared for adulthood. Okay. So who between the two? One path is public school, basically the brick and mortar. You have several teachers, K through 12, etc. Which one do you think is better? Which group of people or group of students is better prepared for school? Will it be the public school kiddos or is it going to be the homeschool kiddos? Okay, and we're going to get into that in just a second. Let me go ahead and pause. I do need to grab my laptop real quick and make sure I got those stats for you. And then we can begin. But I'm going to go ahead and pause the video just for a second. And we'll go from there. All right, guys. So we're going to go ahead and get into it. Greetings, everyone. My name is Miss Asia Educates, a.k.a. Asia Davis. And I am a second-generation homeschool mom. Also a licensed educator. And I'm just up here basically to share my opinion and my experience on basically helping parents just be the best home educators they can be. Okay, so we are parents of excellence. That's academically, when it comes to life skills, everything. That's kind of what we represent. Today, what are we getting into today? It's going to be homeschool versus public school. I have a whole series. It's like a four-part series, and today is actually the last video for that series. And we're just going to be talking about, so after the pencils are down, after the degree is earned, okay? When I say degree, I just mean like the homeschool diploma is earned, okay? After the blood, sweat, and tears of just getting through and finally graduating from high school, what type of kids actually do better in adulthood? Is it public school or is it homeschool? All right, and that's what we're going to be discussing today. All right, which one? So if you're a parent, a teacher, even a student, this might challenge how you see education. All right, so let's go ahead and get into it. Also, comment where you stand below. Do you think that public school will prepare kids best, or is it homeschool that's most likely going to prepare kids best? All right, and let me know in those comments. So let's get into it. So today, no, it's not about attacking one side over the other. It's about a real question and just seeing, okay, who's just better for adulthood, and what, if your kid is in either public school or homeschool, how to navigate, your upbringing so that they're prepared for adulthood and kind of learn from the mistakes of the system, basically. All right. So, and when I say adulthood, we're talking about, number one, managing money, career direction, communication skills, aka life skills, and the responsibility and independence. Those are basically, when I say adulthood, that's the stuff that we're going to be talking about today. All right, so is it the public school or is it the homeschool? You can go ahead and tap that in the comments. So let's go ahead and talk about the stats first. All right, so according to research, and I can also kind of like maybe even probably share the little stats basically maybe on like the mini videos a little later, but according to research, 50% of students that attend public school say that they're not prepared for adulthood. Okay, let me say that again. 50% of kids that graduate from high school in the public school system feel that they're not prepared for adulthood. Okay, and that mostly translates to those four things that I talked about earlier. Number one is money management, finance skills. Number two, life skills. Okay, how to navigate different types of relationships, the boss relationship in the workplace, the peer-to-peer or the coworker community, all that stuff, how to navigate through that, how to make friends, and how to balance life and academics and all the other things that come with adulthood, taxes, credit, all that stuff, right? And then of course, life skills, okay? Life skills like cooking, cleaning, proper healthy dating or whatever the case may be, or healthy ways to find a mate, things like that. When I say mate, I mean like wife or husband or whatever the case may be. So yes, majority of them feel like they're not prepared. Okay, around 50% of college students report feeling unprepared for the real, and not even just high school, but college students, according to this stat, are not prepared for the real world. That, like I said, career, finances, and independence. 70% of students graduate with debt. Okay, nearly 70% of students graduate with debt. And the average amount of debt per student is going to be $30K or above. All right. So the people that decide, hey, I'm going to go the route of college, that's what I'm going to do. 30K is the minimum of debt majority of them have when they attend college. Okay. Many graduates work in jobs unrelated to their degree. And financial literacy, only about 1 in 4 students feel confident managing money. Okay. So school teaches how to pass a test, but not how to build a life. Okay. So let's go back into all those stats, because that was like a whole thing. I always like to start with data first. So when it comes to the school system, public school system, let's go ahead and just, obviously 50% feel like they're not prepared. So that means that 50% are not prepared. 70% end up getting in debt when they do go the route that the school system is meant for them to go to. And the school system outright is very pro college. Okay. It's pro academia. All right. That's what basically school is all about in the public school system. Academia, academics. Okay. So no, obviously it's not their job to teach your child how to manage money. It's not their job to teach your child how to be independent. It's not even their job to learn how to even get or grab a career. Okay. Basically it seems like what the whole thing is, what the whole agenda or motive for the school system is to have your child, when they graduate, pledge to go to college. Okay. College readiness. You can see it actually in a lot of school plans. Okay. If you want to know like what they're trying to do, go ahead and go to your school. They have to have like a strategy, like a school strategy plan or whatever it can be. It's usually public. Go ahead and look at that. And then most of the time you always hear these buzzwords: college readiness, college readiness, college readiness, like every other time. And they even push this in elementary school. So they push it fresh. So from elementary school to from kindergarten all the way to 12th grade, they're literally kind of judging your child to see, okay, are they ready for college? Okay. And most people are like, what's wrong with college or whatever? Like that's good. That's basically what they're trying to go to. But is it really worth it if we're talking about 70% of people going into college and have $30,000 minimum of debt? Then whatever type of degree they get, they attain this degree. And then what do? They're like, oh snap, this is not the job for me. I got this whole degree, 4 years of my life, in some cases 8 years of your life, in some cases 12 years of your life. You're like a doctor or lawyer or something like that, right? Hundreds of $1,000s in debt in those type of fields, just to go back to the drawing board and be like, dang, I signed up for the wrong degree. What am I gonna do, right? And then so you're wasting money. You don't know what direction you're going into, and it's like a whole spiral. So they're literally kind of just putting a bunch of people into a box and a funnel to college, knowing majority of them are not even going to finish the course, get into debt, and then still at the end not even be satisfied with whatever career choice they decided to take. Okay, so y'all got to keep that in mind. So no, public school in that case does not set that up for success. Does not set kids up for success when it comes to adulthood. Only 50% of them actually fare out well. Okay, now let's go into the college conversation, which I kind of already went into. Okay, so this is where, hold on, let me see how far I'm in. Damn, I wish I had the timer up there. I can kind of see up here. All right, so this is where it gets real. College does not equal guaranteed success anymore. Okay, with today's climate, students are going through the motions. They've heard it all their life. They feel like college is just the answer to everything, and parents are not stepping up and being accountable for their child, for helping their child really succeed in life through adulthood by making them research different things. It's good to have a job, but letting them start at the age of 16. They honestly, if you're talking about career moves, children should technically be starting to kind of see what's out there from the beginning. I would say they should be looking at different careers and different types of things at kindergarten, basically, to kind of see just how life works, right? Visiting a fire station, visiting the police station, having conversations with different people in different fields, volunteering, throughout things that spark their interest, the different types of jobs that align with their interests. And then once they get to middle school, really put that into action, right? So internships, you'd be surprised how many volunteer programs, internships, and all those things would actually take on children who are obviously mature enough to like be in those type of spaces, in those environments, in order to figure out, okay, yeah, this is something that I want to be a part of. Okay. And they have time to think about it. Okay. Oftentimes when students are in public school systems, they don't really have that time or that experience to really think about career. All right. Or to think about what they're really into. Okay. The main thing is, okay, I just got to pass this class or whatever case may be. But little do they connect whatever class you're in to life skills. Okay. And I think that's where public school becomes, I know a very weak thing for a lot of students, because they're saying, okay, I know how to do algebra and calculus, but how does that relate to the real world? Okay. So I've talked a lot about public school. Let me go ahead and go into homeschool. So though you see basically public school is just a track. The main thing is college readiness in public school. How, according to data, homeschool students are actually way more prepared. Up to 70 to 80% of people that are homeschooled actually know and actually stick with the career or pathway that is chosen for them. Okay. They also do very well when it comes to college. So if that's like their pathway, they do well in college, but they're a little bit, because they have a little bit more of that hands-on learning from the volunteering, the internships, and all the other stuff, they actually fare out better when it comes to adulthood. Okay. Because a lot of homeschool families, their mom or whoever, they're helping, their families run a business, or they're starting their own businesses as like a project and things like that. I've actually seen a lot of different bulletins on like Facebook and things, FB, on different platforms and so forth, where actually homeschool students are actually creating career fairs, or they're creating, little mini job markets, little mini job fairs that are actually created by kids ages, like I would probably say 8 all the way up to 18, where they establish these business, they're selling a product, and they're actually selling it to other homeschools and other people that are in their community. Okay. So is that happening in the public school system? No. And most of the time it's happening when it's way too late. These type of conversations, these type of things should be starting early. I would say late elementary school at the latest, right? Where we're talking about the different career fields and digging into like your child's interests, their skill level, and then helping them hone in on those skills and those things like that. All right. But again, they feel a lot better for adulthood also because of the socialization factor that's very unique to the homeschool environment. Okay. These kids are not just talking to people in their peer level. They're talking to people older than them, oftentimes adults. They're talking to children younger than them. So they're able to kind of emulate into a social structure where they're able to figure out, okay, I can, they just have better social skills that will allow them to be able to get into the job market or get into jobs that they're interested in. And that's what actually allows them to have that advantage. Okay. So homeschool students often participate more in real life activities such as volunteering, like I said, business and life skills. Okay. A lot of homeschool parents, they're teaching their kids how to bake, how to cook, okay, how to use their skills, whatever their talents are, right, to build a business and things like that, that entrepreneur mindset. And another thing I think that allows homeschool kids to be a lot more on another playing field than the high school parents, is not the high school parents, but those that attend public school, is the independence. Okay. So the school system oftentimes, I feel like I've said multiple times before, they like to coddle. Okay. So they're holding these kids' hands and saying, hey, you need to turn in that assignment. Hey, you need to do this. Hey, you need to do that, all the way through high school. So when they leave high school and they go to college, at that point, the college is saying, yo, this ain't no free education no more. You actually paying for this. So if you don't want to show up to your class or you don't want to do your work, and take your money at the same time. Okay. So what's happening is a lot of public school kids, that are not mature or that have not been given that leg up, or the case may be, they get into college and they're flunking out, they're failing out, and they just don't have that independent mindset to like, let me sit down and do my work, or let me sit down and, get this work done. Knowing how to manage their time, things like that. If you kind of look at even the movie landscape, I love to look at movies and music and culture to kind of see what our culture looks like. When people think of college, they think of party. right? They think of, oh, we're going to binge drink and we're going to do this, we think of that. You don't really see in American society college as something that, you know, you go there and you're like studious. Like, that's not really the mindset, especially when I was growing up. I always saw movies about college and it would always be about them, you know, finding a girl and doing all this other stuff, right? Everything outside of actually educating themselves and preparing for that career. But if you look at other societies that actually value education, such as Japan or Singapore or other societies, if you ever watch movies in other cultures who actually do admire academia, it's like high stress. It's like, if I don't get myself together, if I don't do my work, or if I'm not independent, I'm not going to make it, type of thing, right? But not to say, I feel like there's like a happy medium, but I just feel like that kind of hones into what I'm talking about now, okay? So that independence factor is usually honestly the make or break for a lot of students, is that they don't know how to be independent. But a homeschool student is able to be independent, right? They're oftentimes, they know how to manage life. They know how to manage life and schoolwork, and, you know, like, hey, I'm gonna take this little bit of time to study. I'm gonna take this little bit of time to, you know, go do things that I love, and then let me go ahead and do this. So they kind of are better managed and things like that. But anyway, all right. So going back to the stats for homeschool advantages, so they get one-on-one learning support. All right, which is very important. They develop multi-age social skills, which I pointed out earlier. And studies show many homeschoolers score above average academically, and reports also indicate they have strong self-direction plus independence. Okay, so even with me, when I was homeschooled, and so I think that set me up to be more successful in college, right? Because I felt like after homeschool and being homeschooled in high school and how rigorous it was and how I had to teach myself some subjects and, you know, use resources to figure things out, when I got to college, that was easy peasy for me. Okay, I was like, dang, this is easy. Like, that's all we got to do. We just show up, do this work, pass it in. Okay, cool. So then, which kind of even shows like how rigorous my education had to be in high school for me to think, oh, when I got to college, it's easier. When you go to college, it should be harder, right? No, I just felt like it was a cakewalk the whole time. Just give me my degree. Goodbye. Right? So imagine, because especially when those parents are really doing what they're supposed to do in that homeschool environment, and they're tapping into your children's skills and your what they're doing, that becomes an asset. Okay? So they're not just learning information, they're learning how to live. Okay? They're learning how to do dishes. Okay? They're learning how to, oh snap, you know, grandpa has an orchard. Let me go ahead and help him out on the farm for a little bit. Or let me go ahead, oh, my you know, one of my friends' parents, they have a coffee shop. Let me go ahead and volunteer at the coffee shop, see how that works, see if I like that. You know what I'm saying? So they're actually more open to trying different things and then figuring out what their passions are and how that can relate to a career. Okay? So, yes. So basically, in a nutshell, now, let's be honest. Homeschool is not perfect either, okay? It requires effort from parents. Not every household can do it. And socialization depends on the parents' efforts, okay? So one thing that I'd love to push in these lives, and just as more and more as I get on live and so forth, is that it doesn't matter what type of school system your child attends, whether that's homeschool or public school. What matters is how you show up as a parent, okay? Because your child can go to public school, but if you're an involved parent, and you're saying, you know what, when I do get those 4 hours or whatever it can be when they get out, we gonna make sure that you on it. Academically, life skills related, all that stuff, right? It's up to the parent. The only reason why homeschool parents seem to be a little bit, they always have that edge, is because the parents are guiding them, right? The parents is the key. Okay, they're like, I don't care. Yes, you at home, but guess what? You still gonna learn this and you still gonna be successful, right? Now, let me go back to that financial literacy piece, because I feel like that is the most important and one thing that I feel like kind of affects people in different walks of life anyway. Okay? So, honestly, school does not touch financial literacy like it should. Okay? It just doesn't. All right? And I feel like that's on purpose in some cases, because they're like, hey, if everybody just assumes that a degree is going to give them money, you know, you give us $30,000, $100,000, but then you going to sit here. Like, for example, teachers. A lot of teachers, I believe, on average, it's about maybe 30 to 50K to get a teaching degree, right? But then you only, when you graduate and so forth, 50, I would say 50 to even, it depends on what school you go to, honestly. So it could be upwards to maybe 70,000 if you're talking about a private institution. But anyway, follow me here. So you have 70%, you have teachers, they go to college for 4 years. You really don't even know how to teach until your last semester. Okay, all the other stuff, it's all a blur. I don't even remember half the other stuff. I think it was just a bunch of forums and how to teach whatever. You really don't know how to teach until that last semester when you do your internship. And you're actually in the classroom and you see how things go and how things function. I feel like what they should do is they should start internships that first year that you start a teaching program. Not the last semester, but the beginning, just to make sure that this is what you want to do, and then continue to be in the classroom and be in charge over the 2 years. I think it's like a 2-year process. The first 2 years are just a bunch of random stuff they make you do to get your money. But then the last 2 years is actually the thing that matters and helps you in your career, supposedly. I think, honestly, the thing that made my teaching career was maybe, like I said, that last semester. Everything else was just a waste to me, honestly. I could have learned half that stuff online, really. I think I did, actually. But the financial aspect, it's like, how much time, they're not teaching kids that the time that you invest and the money that you put in, is that worth the investment after you graduate? Okay, is it worth the investment? When you sign your name on the dotted line for that $50,000, $80,000 loan, okay? And then, is that going to translate to a career that's going to allow you to stay in a life afterwards? Okay, buying a house, renting out a house, for example, doing all the managing adulthood things. Okay, that somehow is magically skipped. Okay, and maybe it's a good thing that's skipped, because I mean, if it was a public school that's telling you about money and stuff like that, you already know how it goes. Like, they'll teach a certain thing to kind of keep people in this box, and that's just it. Hold on, y'all. But yes, the financial thing is very important. And then they don't even touch on how to actually create an income and how to sustain it. Okay, so the average person, when they get out of high school, or case may be, if their parents didn't understand how to budget, they don't know how to budget. If their parents didn't know how to understand stocks and what that means long term, or how to start an IRA account or revenue and things like that, what your how to figure out your net worth and so forth, like that's important to understand, like what's your debt to income ratio, that type of thing. Most people don't know half of that. Okay, so I think as a parent, it's important for you to know how to budget, for you to know how to do revenue, and any type of mistakes that you made, take it upon yourself to teach your kids early. Hey, I got myself into debt. I'm still in debt. Okay, and tell them the difference between, I feel like there's no such thing as good debt, really, but like debt such as like owning a home, right? But then as you pay off the debt, you get like equity in that home, which in turn is just like cash that you can use for different things, versus like a credit card debt, or like things that like liabilities such as like cars and just items that depreciate over time, right? So with that, if they leave high school understanding calculus, right, an academic thing, but understanding how to balance a checkbook, well, they don't really have checkbooks, or how to balance their budget, right, for living, like rent, understanding how to balance utilities and things like that, how to put money away for savings, how to put money away into things that are going to grow their money over time, such as stocks, such as real estate, such as a business, things like that, then they're already going to be set up for success, period. So if you do that in general, just make sure that you as a parent are taking it upon yourself to educate yourself on those things that you might have fallen into and may have made mistakes. And then in turn, in the next generation, you're teaching those kids how not to get into the same things you got into and be even better than you are when it comes to financial literacy. Okay, so even my kids are in preschool, but guess what? I've already put it into my lesson plans and my curriculum that financial literacy is going to start in kindergarten. Okay, yes, so they're going to learn about pennies, nickels and dimes, all that stuff. What does it mean to be an entrepreneur? What does it mean to do all these other things? Obviously at a language where they can understand, but how important it is to, okay, not just go to the store, I give you money, you just buy what you want. But no, like, we got responsibilities, okay? Like, you live here, But how can I help you be responsible? So making them have like a little rent or whatever, or taking $1 out of their little allowances to buy other things, or to volunteer, or to give to the poor and things like that, and just being a more balanced individual when it comes to money. Not just giving them money and be like, oh, you just buy what you want, you got your money, hey, good for you, or hey, we're just gonna let it sit in a savings account with a low IPY, with a low yield, you know. That's another thing too. Just having your money sit there and not even do nothing. You put 20K or 50K in an account, but that thing giving you 15 cents at the end of the year. What? You better put that thing in like a high interest, or just in the stock market in that point, and just make sure that you just, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, so that's what I plan on doing with my own kiddos being homeschooled, and helping to understand the risk factor when it comes to career. No, I'm not against college, but I think you have to be very educated about what the long game is once you go into college. What is your plan? Okay, so a lot of kids and a lot of people don't know how to plan for the future. Okay, so if you're gonna get in this career, give me a 5-year plan, give me a 10-year plan. What does that look like? Okay, you go to college, and you know what I'm saying? What are you doing per semester? What are you doing as far as your skills? How are you balancing? Are you still going out and actually talking to people? Are you still like, what is your priorities? And I think another thing that the public school system does too is it's not really family oriented when you think about it. Okay? Because if you think about it, your kid is away from you for 8 hours out of the day, which translates for a lot of people is that most people work an 8-hour job. Okay? So when you get home, parents are too tired to even have the energy to pour into their kids. Okay, so everybody's just kind of to their own thing. We also have technology where the technology actually becomes the social factor in the family. So then really the only times you really hang out with your kid on average in the average household is on the weekends for a couple hours and call it a day, right? We go to the park together, we have dinner, cool, yay. I did my part as a parent. Okay, but that's what makes it difficult, because they're not trying to build the family. That's not what they're trying to do. They're just trying to build workers. They're just trying to build people that are kind of ignorant to how to have a real life outside of a career. Okay, and our society, I feel like, is almost too career oriented too, in a sense, because they don't talk about, I think that's where parents come in as well, because a parent can come in and be like, hey, the family unit is what actually builds a society, right? To make it more safe, to make it more this, more that, right? And then a multitude of families that have the same values, in a sense, creates a community, and that community can be helpful. That means less crime. If people are able to kind of barter and trade and things like that, or businesses are in the community and they kind of just help each other out, you know what I'm saying, and support the businesses within their community and things like that, right? So, but it starts in the family first. If you have a strong family unit, that will in turn create strong communities, but they don't want that. Right? The average, when I was looking up the research and researching for today's live, the average family, okay, first of all, people are getting married later and less. Okay, so only 30% of society, they were saying, actually get married by the time they're in their 30s. Then they're having children way later in life because they chose the career first over family. Okay, and in a sense, it makes sense at first, like, oh snap, yeah, it makes sense for you to, get your career. They always say, oh, get your career first, then have your family, or whatever the case may be. So that means that career is more important than family in our society, and that's messing a lot of people up. That's why these things like, people becoming infertile and all that other stuff down the line, because they waited, they were doing all this other stuff. Not really focused on family, not really focused on starting a family. They were like, no, I need to get my career first. I need to get off the ground. They're like, oh, once I get my career and once I have enough money, then I can go. But then a lot of people, they're getting the career, they're graduating, getting the career, not making the money, not having kids, because they're like, dang, I thought the career was supposed to help me make the money, but I'm not making the money like I'm supposed to, because they don't know how to manage money. And it all's like a whole cycle. And then before they know it, they're in their 50s, 40 or 50s, millennials and Gen Xers or whatever the case may be, and they're like, dang, like, I'm not married, I'm in debt, like, what in the world, like, and that's, even if you think about it, I always go back to biblical principles. At the end of the day, it's all about, if I can do anything, especially when it comes to life skills, if I can just lead my kids to Christ and lead my kids to really depend on God's biblical teachings for their lives, I've done my job. Okay, I've done my job, because I feel like if once they get into that, God's going to take care of them regardless, right? But God's order isn't career first. No, God's order is family. No, God's order is God first, honoring God with everything you do. Then you have your family, right? A husband who finds a wife finds a great thing, right? So marriage, and then from that you have children, and then the career comes after that, okay? And then of course God's gonna provide the career for you if you're doing everything in a pecking order. But if you're having idol for career and for all this other stuff, it just ain't gonna work, right? You're just gonna be working in a circle, and even if you do have money, you're not gonna be satisfied with it because you're missing that purpose piece. But I can go into that in a different live. But yeah, it's all about what are you doing as a parent to tap into what you want your child to be as an adulthood. Don't wait till high school to start teaching those skills that's going to help your child. Go ahead and let your child come in the kitchen with you. Go ahead and let your child do some laundry. Go ahead and let your child visit different places, zoos and veterinary places. Like put them in as many volunteer opportunities as possible as a family, so you can kind of see like where their skills go. Let them try different types of skills and let them try different types of things. Let them start a little mini business, it could be anything, lemonade, bracelets. I know one of my friends, actually, her daughter sells bracelets on her website and things like that. Let them come along. I know I have a couple businesses myself. I'm gonna let my kids, be part of my stuff too and see how they like it. And another family member of mine who also has their own business and stuff, but just let them get their feet wet and just figure it out from there. But anyway, y'all, that is, all right, here we go. But anyway, that's like the end of my spiel. I know I've been up here a little longer than I should have. It's 3 for an hour, 4 minutes over, but that's okay. That's okay. I kind of just went on a little tangent there. Okay, so let me know in the comments. Okay, especially if you watch this as a highlight, what do you think? Okay, who reigns supreme when it comes to adulthood, being prepared for adulthood, public school or homeschool? Okay, and is there anything that you agree with or disagree with me about? Let me know in the comments. Also, if you're like, yo, like, I've really been enjoying a lot of your videos. I actually am trying to start homeschooling my child. Again, it doesn't matter what type of school system your child is in. You're a homeschooler if you're a parent. That's just my ideal. And I say that because you are your child's teacher at the end of the day, and you can tap into your child, and you know your child more than anyone else. Okay. So if you take the time out to teach your child, whether that be the average homeschool day is only 1 hour to 3 hours on the regular, okay? 1 hour to 2 hours for elementary to lower elementary to upper elementary, and about 2 to 3, or maybe even 2 to 3 hours max when it gets to middle school and high school. So yes, you have time to homeschool. You have time to dig in and help your child be the best they can be and to thrive in excellence. So if you want to know how to do that, go ahead and check out my website. I have a homeschool success framework guide, aka or homeschool success checklist, that walks you through from beginning to end how to educate your child, okay, in excellence. So if you want to go ahead and do that, go ahead and check that out. If you are watching this on YT, it's going to be in the description. All right, and that's it, y'all. So if you guys have any comments, questions, concerns, anything like that, go ahead and hit me up on message. If you're watching this after my live is over, or down the line, could be months down the line, especially this is on YT, and go ahead and message me and hit me up. You can hit me up on my website. You can also hit me up on TikTok as well. I'm the same. Miss Asia Educates is also on TikTok. Hit me up, message there, and I will gladly help you and guide you to where you like to be. All right, guys. So I will talk to you guys later. Grace and peace. Have a wonderful day. Ciao, ciao.